Now we are going to talk about a majorly important topic in Algebra 1, which is exponents. So, first you need to know what an exponent is. An exponent is made up of two parts, the base and the power. So the base can be any number or variable, and it's raised to what is called a power, which can also be a number or variable, but usually is a number. So what the power is doing is it's telling you how many times you're going to multiply this number. So we have 3 to the third power, so we're going to have 3 times 3 times 3. 3 multiplied 3 times. It also works the same with variables. X to the fourth power is telling me to write x times x times x times x, or x multiplied 4 times. Now, if you see a term like this, with your exponent to the third, this exponent only applies to this variable, the one it's on top of. It does not apply to this 3, and since it doesn't apply to that, this is known as our coefficient, usually the number in front of your variable. Another thing that's important to know is how to work with exponents and negative numbers. Here we have negative 3 to the second power, or Dewey. Negative 3 to the second power actually looks like this. It's including that negative number, and it would look like this, negative 3 times negative 3, which is positive 9. However, if there are no parentheses, it has a completely different meaning. This negative is actually representing a negative 1 multiplied by a 3 squared. This power is only relevant to this 3. 3 times 3 is 9, times negative 1. So our answer with this is actually negative 9, which is not the same as the positive 9 which we found before. Don't get fooled when they try and pull a little trick on either your test or your worksheets. If there are no parentheses, then this negative sign does not get included in the exponent. Here's one quick tip I have when working with negative bases and exponents. If you have any negative base raised to an odd exponent, then your answer is always going to be negative. And then from there, you don't have to worry about this negative symbol, and you can just worry about the 5. So 5 to the third power is 125. Here, if your base is raised to an even number, your answer is always going to be positive. And then you can just worry about your number and not the sign. So 5 to the second power is 25. Another thing I want to address is squares and cubes. Anything squared is any base to the second power. One thing that's important to know is your perfect squares, which are numbers 1 through 20 squared. Knowing them is very important to save that extra second on your tests, and it is very useful once you get into harder equations. Our next phrase to know is a base cubed. And basically what this is saying is any base to the third power. Now, this is your table. This is your table for 1 through 20 to the third power, or 1 through 20 cubed. And this is also important to know. Now, these numbers do get very big, but I do recommend learning all of them. If you can't memorize all of them, at least learn up to the 10th power.